this is kind of for everyone, is going back to that question about time, making the jump to a superintendent. Is there like a specific trait or something that someone definitely got to have that you guys have noticed?
For me, if you're working for me, when you think you know more than I do, it's time for you to get your own golf course. And that's okay. It doesn't mean you know more than I do, but if I'm not advancing you and making you better and preparing you to be a golf course superintendent, it's time for you to move on anyway. We're talking with one of the fellows here, Peninsula Country Club, the assistant that's there, interviewed for the job. When we asked him, he had been there for 5 or 6 years, we asked him questions about budget, if he'd ever been involved in budgeting or ever seen the budget, and his answer was no. That's a red flag if you're at your course for 5 or 6 years and you have no clue about the money that's being spent and how it's being spent. Doesn't mean you have to do the budgeting. Here's a tip to everybody out there in the audience. If you don't have a list of things you want to accomplish to advance your skill set in the next year, I don't care whether it's how to operate a bobcat, a backhoe, how to develop a spray program, how to read a soils report, whatever it may be. If I'm taking a job as an assistant somewhere, I want to make sure that the person I'm going to work for is going to teach me those things. I don't care about an extra $1 an hour. I care about where am I going to be in 2, 3, 4, 5 years when I leave there. How prepared will I be? There's an old adage with the game of pool. Is the object in pool sinking the ball that you're hitting with the cue ball? I thought it was, and the guy told me, he says, no, that's not the objective. The objective is you know you're going to sink the ball. It's where you leave the cue ball to set yourself up for the next shot. So what's your next shot in your career is what you're doing and the guy you're working for preparing you for that next position. And if it's not, be satisfied with status quo because you're not going to go anywhere.
The other thing I would add to that, you talk about a trait. One thing is confidence. When you send in a resume and, there may be, you may apply for a job that maybe for whatever reason it is outside of your qualifications or whatever. Let that be for somebody else to decide. When I talk to people on the phone and they're like, well, I'm probably not going to get it, but I'm at least going to go interview. Boy, that's not a good mentality to have going into an interview. Have the mentality that, I'm going to get it. Maybe, I'll knock them off their feet, but make sure that you get a positive experience. Again, when Bruce, Matt, myself, we've all been doing this, some longer than others, but a long time. And, I actually had a situation where a club had hired a headhunter, somebody to help them with, recruiting and getting somebody in there. And they had their list of candidates. Well, guess what? One person that wasn't on their list but knew a green chairman or board member or whatever from a local club here said, well, you got to hire, we got to at least interview him, give him a chance or whatever. He comes in, he knocks him off your feet. He's not even on the list of the guy that they hired to help them hire the superintendent. It's the guy they hired. And he's still at the club right now. So, and for a lot of years, but I can't tell you how many years. But I can't remember, that's why. It's been a lot of years, and again, it was a situation where he made the decision he's going to go in there and put his best foot forward and let the chips fall where they may. So make sure that you make it a positive experience and have confidence in your abilities. And, there's situations you're going to go in, you're going to feel great about an interview, and it doesn't go the way you think it should. And there may be a time when you go, man, I blew that, and it's like, we want to bring you back in for a second interview. You just don't know, so make sure that you're doing your best. So.
It's cool to think, but man, it's awesome to know, So like when you're at work, like there's certain things you just know. You know how to solve for X, I hope. You know what chemistries to spray and when to spray them. You know how to water. When you know the answers to all the questions, it's time to go. It's time to go. And attack the things that you're weak at. Nobody knows your weaknesses better than you. You just have to be honest with yourself. And then you have to figure it out. If you're a poor communicator, you can be a great communicator. You just have to look yourself in the mirror and say, geez, as much as I don't want to do this, I want to be successful. So I'm going to Dale Carnegie.
The other thing that's interesting, you talk about being a communicator. Every time I speak, even to this group, walking up here at 10:02 this morning or whatever it was, you still get a little bit of butterflies and a little bit nervous at the start. I mean, it's, and I've literally spoken, probably 200 times in front of groups much larger than this, but you just have to learn to overcome it. And, I always tell people that I just assume that what I am presenting on at that minute, whether it's my career, my ability, or whatever, I know more about that topic than anybody else sitting out there, because it's my topic. So just always remember that.
They say love's the best emotion, but I think fear is the best. It's the ultimate motivator.
A lot of times when you're in this business and you think you've heard everything from club officials, employers, et cetera, then some other wild, crazy, stupid thing comes out. And it's going to happen. LA Country Club has 1,500 members. There's probably 1,485 that are really nice people. My dad told me a long time ago, he says, if you leave your club you're at to get away from the 12 jerks that are there, don't worry, they're at the next stop. You just haven't met them yet, and they have a different name and a different face. So you're going to deal with difficult situations. And again, part of this is about communication and the confidence issue. I'll have an answer. I mean, occasionally I have to say, I don't know that, but let me find out and I'll get back to you. That's rare. For the most part, somebody has a question, there's a problem that needs to be solved, I want to let them know I'm your go-to guy. What I said for years and years, whether it was in politics of offices in the associations or at the clubs I worked at, you can count on me. I'll get it solved. I'll get it fixed. And boy, oh boy, too many people spend lots of time talking about, it's this and it's that, and it's everything else. These people, like we say, they want to come out and play golf. They don't want to come out and get intrinsically involved in how you're going to solve the problem. When stuff happens at your golf course, a little bit of a side conversation here. What happened? What are you going to do about it? When's it going to be right? Maybe how much is it going to cost? That's usually the last consideration. So for the most part, the fact that you have an issue and you can problem. If I am a young guy and I'm in this business, why wouldn't I want to have on my resume, or why wouldn't I want to discuss in an interview? Because I'm going to ask you this question if you ever interview for me. Give me an example of problem solving and what problem that was of some significance you encountered and how you went about solving that problem. That's what we do as superintendents. We solve problems. As an agronomist, he solves problems. We solve problems. Sometimes they're people problems. Sometimes they're, obviously Matt had the big event, the major event there at his place. It may be about the crane. It may be about the TV cable. It may be about somebody broke something. You still got to solve problems.
Might be because Stanley didn't take Mother Nature out to dinner, and if he did, he must have stiffed her on the check.
It may be cutting down the tree in between the 14th tee and the 18th green.
Yeah, that could be it too.
I was milling around on the 18th green while that conversation was going on. I'm like, I'm not even getting into that. But
be confident, as these guys said, but there's a fine line between confidence and BS. You better be able to back up what you do. You build on your successes. And as far as the communication thing again, this is hard for guys to believe. Me, myself personally, I'm an English major in college. I'm not an English major because I like English. I'm an English major because I thought it was an important vehicle for me to learn how to write, to learn how to share my thoughts and ideas. And then I get that degree, and then I go out and I go 2 more years to college to study speech. And again, it's not because I'm a great speaker and because I'm a great writer. I became those things, but it's because I knew it was a weakness and I wanted to make it a strength, and I studied it. And then I come with my tail between my legs and go work for Frank Dobie at Sharon Golf Club, where I went to college nearby there. And half of what I needed to survive every month came out of my savings because I was teaching college English. I went from a college English instructor to raking bunkers and mowing fairways at Sharon Golf Club, and I never looked back. So that's how you build your confidence. You give a talk, you stand in front of people, you do it over and over again, and when you do, it becomes competitive. I still get butterflies for only about 10 seconds, but it doesn't matter if you got 2,000 or 5,000 in your audience. You've got to be confident in how you present yourself, because people want you to succeed in what you tell them. They don't want you to fail.
And if you got to speak with these two guys, go first.
The other thing, assistant superintendent wise, that can be extremely beneficial for your facility, but as well as for you, if there's a project or something that, it's as simple as tree work or something like that, approach whoever you work for and say, hey, I'd like to take this on and be able to, do the estimates, contact, a tree contractor or whatever, and get the information and pricing and that type of stuff so they have it. It's just good experience to go through those type of processes, and it also helps a lot when you start talking to it about owners, course officials, whatever, to say, we really need to do this or whatever, we'll find out how much it costs. Here it is. This is, we've got it. This is what we want to do. And a lot of times they make a decision before they have time to think about, man, we may not have wanted to remove all those trees, but, you get commitment and that type of stuff. So.